Welcome to Bashtrix, and this week we're going to be going over runtime keyboard shortcuts. So these are some not necessarily as apparent keyboard shortcuts, kind of extending from the last time that we had a Bashtrix video about having keyboard shortcuts, but this time we're going to show you how to have it while an application is running. You can kind of dig in and get some more extra verbose information from the running application. So let's go ahead and dig into the code. Alright. Pre-reqs, we're going to go ahead and go over how to install nmap during the tutorial, but if you are not using the setup bash or the bash setup that I talk about in the bullet beforehand, you will need nmap installed for being able to follow along with this. So why is it important? Sometimes whenever you're running an application, you need to get more verbose feedback as to what's going on, so that way you know that there's not an error happening, or you just kind of want to make sure that, check the status of it, make sure that everything's running alright. Sometimes you don't know exactly how verbose of information that you want to have whenever you launch the program, so allowing the user to alter the amount of feedback that they get while the application is running is really useful and helpful. And then also, third, it's really important for being able to be helpful and useful for debugging whenever something is going wrong. So not all applications have this. Sometimes just hitting keyboard shortcuts to see what happens will cause an application to respond or react in a different way. I haven't identified a way to enumerate keyboard shortcuts besides looking in the man page and Google searching about it. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and get into the example. As you can see, I'm in my bash setup. Do the p bash. Alright, so we're going to do apk add nmap, and that'll go out and install nmap for us. This website that we're going to be scanning is provided by nmap.org, the people that actually make nmap. For some reason, it is not pulling down. Okay. Weird. Alright, so now that we have nmap installed, which we can do one of our previous commands to make sure that it's in our path and installed, we're going to go ahead and run this nmap command. And then while this nmap command is running, we're going to hit some key sequences. So it's running right now. If you hit shift question mark, it will give you the interactive keyboard commands that you're allowed to do. So at first we're going to just go ahead and increase verbosity to 3 just because we can. And we'll wait for some port information to come back, or anything. And as you can see at the very bottom of that help, it gives you a link for the interactive runtime. So that's just a status. You can do that by hitting anything else, as it says above the link. So there's another status. And I just hit S, or most of the time I hit enter. But let's see, normally we should be getting some type of, oh, looks like it's still going through the send scan. But normally we'd be getting some verbose information back. Why don't I actually Oh, there we go. Okay. So discovered open port on that specific port number, TCP on that IP address. And normally you wouldn't get that type of information, so now we're going to hit Shift V or a capital V to decrease the verbosity. And we're going to go back to 1. Now we're going to hit lowercase d for debugging information. Just kind of hit it a few more times. You see how much our screen just kind of started to scroll. So let's not have that. And then the last thing that they talk about is packet tracing. So this is really verbose, but gives you extremely detailed information as to what's going on for the packets. So now we're going to actually go into some bash runtime keyboard shortcuts that you can do, and one of those is actually Control-Z. Control-Z will actually background a process, so whatever it's running, you're currently running and you're attached to, it'll essentially let you detach from it and still keep running the command in the background. And one of the things to remember for this is that whatever you background, if you don't redirect the normal std out or std error, which we'll get into that later on, it will actually continue to output that to your terminal screen if you don't handle the redirection yourself. So you're not going to see anything here for right now because there's not very much information since I put nmap back into the normal mode of verbosity. So the way that we can access that background task is we can do FG or foreground, and that will then reattach us, and now my runtime arguments are happening again. So another more popular and more well-known command or interactive keyboard shortcut is Control-C, and that will actually kill the command that's currently running. So now you can see that if we do a PS, there's no nmap command running. Oh, here, that's probably a good example of if we do that, PS, there you go. And we're actually going to get into processes and process IDs soon as well. So go ahead, foreground, Control-C, and then PS again, just to show you it killed everything properly. So one of the last things that we're going to go over is that SSH actually has runtime interactive keyboard shortcuts. And the only reason why I found out about that is because every once in a while I would have a session hang up, and essentially it would become non-interactive. I couldn't get it to respond at all. And so I heard on one of my podcasts that you can actually do tilde, and then I'm going to do question mark this time, but you'll see in a second. Tilde is the essentially meta key for all of the keyboard shortcuts that SSH supports. So tilde period I use to terminate the connection that would become non-responsive. So as an example, I'm going to end up killing my SSH session into my vagrant host. So if I do tilde period, there it goes. It killed the session. So I can just do vagrant SSH again, and it should connect me back. So now I'm back into my SSH session. Alright, well, that's all for this week's Bash Tricks, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Take care.